It's like Vale saying something, and then Radiant says, that's a good idea, and then Shallan goes, I want to sketch. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video where today, I'm actually not going to be waving a book around at you today because the book that we're looking at is not actually out yet. Now, if you didn't know, Brandon Sanderson has released the first few chapters of his new book in the Stormlight Archive called The Rhythm of War, and every single week until November when the book comes out, a chapter or two is going to be released on Tor's website, the publishing company that's going to publish the book. So, as of today, the first 5 chapters plus the prologue are out for free. We can read them for free ahead of the book's release, and next week we'll get 7 and 8, and the week after that we'll get 9 and 10, and we can just read them to our heart's content, which is amazing. But today we're going to be talking about the first 5 chapters plus the prologue, because that's the only thing that's out at the moment, of Rhythm of War, and I'm going to be giving you my thoughts and opinions on the book so far. So let's dive straight into it, shall we? So the prologue kicks off like all the prologues of the Stormlight Archive have so far, and I'm assuming at least till book 5 will be about, and that is showing Gavilar's death from a different perspective. This time from Navani's perspective. Now, before, the prologues had been adding mystery to Gavilar, who he was, what he wanted, the different characters' relationships with him, but this time around we see a much darker side to the character, in that him and Navani's relationship was really toxic. Really, he did not listen to her, he was verbally abusive, it was not okay, and Navani starts it by showing her annoyance at Gavilar, and it ends with him dying. But just before then, there's this massive conflict between him and her where they have a fight, and that's the last conversation that they have is a fight. And it's really, really interesting to see a different side to this character. And I wonder if he is actually... She does say that he used to be better, so it could be that maybe an unmade is starting to possess him a little bit. But I don't think that's likely. I think the truth is that he has found more and more about the Radiants and their power, and he's gotten more power hungry, and he's just gotten a bit full of himself. And Navani does mention that he actually does realize that he does realize that what he's doing is wrong, because usually when they have a fight he sends her a gift or something the next day, so, as an apology. Doesn't make it right, but it is evidence that he knows at least deep down that what he's doing is wrong. Well, anyway, this time he dies so, by theft, as we know from The Way of Kings. So that's a bit bittersweet. No, it's not really bittersweet at all, it's just sad, and there is a little bit of a good riddance kind of attitude to his death this time around. So that was really interesting. It's might be my favourite prologue we've actually seen so far, because it was so heavily just about character. Because before we've had Yasna, and we've had, obviously we've had Zeph, and we've also had, who was the one in Oathbringer? Eshonai. And with Eshonai, Dalinar's drunk. Gavilar is still, he's trying to show Eshonai the Spren, and talking about how they can change and become the fused and stuff like that, which freaked her out, which made me think maybe Gavilar's not that trustworthy. Now let's move on to Chapter 1. Chapter 1 has Liren, which is Caledon's father, of course, and he's trying to help the people of Hearthstone, trying to heal them up. Seeing Liren's perspective on all things was a really interesting way to start the book and to set the status quo where we are now. Of course, then adding Caledon on top of it, and it was really sad. I found it really sad when what was his name? When Liren saw Caledon, and he thought Caledon as death, and that his son was taken from him. I do understand, like, I'm not in any way pro-war, so I do understand where Liren's coming from, but the situation that they're in, you can't just not fight. They're being attacked by these ancient creatures. You can't just sit back and go, oh, peace, because you'll just end up dead. Anyway, rant over. Let's go back to Caledon. Now, Caledon he starts the book obviously fighting this really cool fuse with these cool powers that is really weird, actually. Basically, how this fuse works with its magic is that so it implodes, becomes this little line, zips across the sky and expands again, and so it can chase after Caledon, and it's really freaky, actually. And it like stabs into him, and I'm squeamish, so I'm going, ugh. It's quite a gruesome part, like beginning to the book, but having a fight between Caledon and then this cool fuse, which fuse was very interesting, and we got to see a little bit of where Caledon is at the moment, and a bit of banter with Syl, which I always love. And Syl is worried about Caledon. He's going through some stuff at the moment. He doesn't seem to be sleeping. It seems that his depression has taken a turn for the worse since we last saw him. Of course, last book he had a lot of things go badly for him with Elfkar's death and all of that. Of course, spoilers for the entire Stormlight Archive up to this point. And so Caledon was not in a good mood, and then he didn't say the words at the end of the last book, which was a great subversion. But now he just seems to be really downtrodden. And also he seems to have... We'll get to that soon, actually. But when he gets back, when he fights the fuse and gets back, I don't know if I'm mixing the chapters here, but when he gets back and he sees his mum and Syl and her have a bit of banter, and he holds his baby brother, which was really cute, and his mum teases him and asks how him and Lynn are going, which made me think, what? Caledon's dating Lynn? Not anymore, they broke up. But so quite a lot's happened since the last book. Later on, we do learn that their relationship wasn't right, and they're still friends. If Caledon is a little bit snarky, because of course he is. But let's continue with that. And Lyran's still not really talking to Caledon, and there's this guy coming from, the place, so I don't know what it's called, but the country just north of Elfkar. It's where Lopen's from, the Herdazians, I think they're called, and he's hiding out there as well, and Caledon tries to find him, but he's hiding away. Because that fused earlier that Caledon was fighting, that fuse that ends up running away, Caledon knows that there are going to be reinforcements, so he tries to get the villagers ready for battle. Well, in terms of just saying, we need to flee, we need to leave now. And Lyran says, I'm not going to leave without my people, and Caledon says, I know. And that's when something crazy happens that is just insane. It's ridiculous, but it works. And that's that, using Fabrioles and gemstones, Navani has managed to basically make this giant bridge, this giant flying machine that looks kind of like a bridge, and make it fly across the sky to have everyone inside it, like a giant ferry, almost like a flying ferry that have everyone to try and rescue all the people. That's insane. Wow. And having her being really excited about that. She is completely a scholar. Whatever she says, she's a scholar because she gets excited about that sort of thing, and she gets really excited about the inventions. And, at least I think. And what happens now is that big bridge comes down, called the 4th bridge, because it's named after Bridge 4, which is kind of cool. And the Bridge 4 is actually in it as well. It's in the middle, built into the big ship. And they come down, and the edge dancers come out, and there's new wind runners, and it's just very cool. There's an entire army now. Like, it feels like things have really progressed, and there's so many more radiants, and it's just, yes, that's so cool. And then we have switching to Shallan. I know, I was gonna get to her, but Shallan has been, or Shallan, Radiant, and Veil, because they're all kind of 3 now. It's not really, they're all each other at once. They're being friendly, which is extremely weird, because Sanderson just jumps back and forth between them constantly. It's like Veil saying something, and then Radiant says, that's a good idea, and then Shallan goes, I want to sketch. So, and it's the same person. It's weird. It's really bizarre, but it's really interesting to read. Anyway, Shallan, I'm just going to say Shallan, is undercover, pretending to be this woman to try and infiltrate the Sons of Honor, which is a cult that was led by Amaran Gavilar earlier, and now it's been led by Thaddeus's wife, Ilali, I think her name is, or Iali. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. It's a weird name. But anyway, Shallan does manage to go into a bar, and she gets mugged. She gets drugged and then kidnapped, and that's all on purpose. It's all part of the plan to figure out if Ilali is the leader of the Sons of Honor. Anyway, so she actually gets captured and gets taken down into the chasm, and there's some really interesting dialogue there, and she tries to trick them into saying things, and we get to learn just a bit more about where Shallan's at and her relationship with Adolin. It's not hugely interesting yet, nothing big's really happened, but it is really good just to see Shallan and her other personalities talk to each other, and her trying to figure out what's going on with Ilali will be quite an interesting story arc. The fact that she'd given them this thing to make them think that they can detect light weavers when it's actually all a lie was just incredibly funny. That ends, by the way, with Adolin. That entire section ends with her trying to trick them, but Adolin sees it, as Radiant said, sees it as her in trouble, so he sends in the Caledon troops. So what's going to happen next? We'll have to wait probably next week to find out. But switching back to Caledon and the peeps and the other guys, you've got this really cool fight scene where they're all flying around, and Caledon's chasing this fused. What are they called? Heaven something? The flying fused. They're called Heavenly Ones, I think. And he's chasing one, and he seems to have this bit of a rivalry with this fused, and it's an amazing piece of imagery where Brandon says that all the members of Bridge 4 and the Windrunners all fly up, and they're like sky eels in like formation, and they're all coming into the enemy and then breaking off into skirmishes, and it was incredible to imagine in my mind what was going on that battlefield. It was really interesting, actually, in Hearthstone too. It's a great way to start the book, and to have Caledon fight off with that fused, and was really just interesting and fun to watch, and to see their dynamic and that rivalry, but then also to have all the other characters come around and try to talk to Caledon and say, hey, you alright? They're all doing it. And so that makes me think, ooh, is he alright? Because I don't think he is. When you got Rock, Teft, this girl called Kara or something, she's a new character, but she was mentioned. And you've also got, of course, what was her name? The one we were talking about earlier. Lynn talking to Caledon too. They seem pretty respectful to each other, even if Caledon just snap at her, but hey, it is Caledon. But there's some great dialogue with Syl and her talking to him as he's flying around and summoning things, and it was just a really interesting chapter, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, that's basically where we are now. We've got Caledon and all of them, and Dalinar and Navani and all the Windrunners together with the Edge Dancers protecting Hearthstone, with the Fused attacking, and Dalinar also being the Bondsmith, having the Honor's perpendicularity shooting out. That was pretty cool, combining all the realms together. But that's where we're up to, and then Shallan doing the Veil stuff is going to get interesting as well. So that is the very, very beginning of Rhythm of War. When we get a few other chapters, maybe chapter 5 to 10, I'll do another video. I'll talk about what happens then. But this has been this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe and like the video, and tell me what else you want to see. I'm reading Elantris at the moment, so when I finish that, we'll have a book about Elantris coming up. I've also got some new Zelda content in the works, so lots of great stuff coming your way. Anyway, I hope you have a fantastic day. I've been the Aussie Viking, and I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.